Hello and welcome, beautiful ones. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I want to get more into the metaphysical stuff because there are so many things out there relating to metaphysical and health and self-care. So I'm going to talk a little bit about angelic and spirit guides. So how you can kind of tell the difference, or at least how I can tell the difference. And also, when it comes to higher self and ego, are those messages that we're getting coming from within ourselves in some way? I think they are. I know that for myself, some of the overthinking starts coming up. And I know that when that happens, it's all me. But as far as the angel messages, there's the question of, is it an actual being? Is it from within? Is it higher self? What is it? And I think that kind of depends on what you believe. As far as from my own experience, I've been working with angels since I was young, many years. And part of the reason I got into it was because, I needed something to believe in, for one, and I needed a little bit of guidance, and I needed somebody to be patient with me because I was not being patient with myself. So the way that angels come through, I wish I had my lighter here so I could put some sage on, but the reason that I feel that the angels were coming through at that time was because I really needed that. I needed somebody to be patient because I was being so harsh on myself on why things weren't happening, why they weren't panning out, and not realizing that, as an example, the one job that you apply to is not necessarily going to be the only job that there is. It's not the only opportunity by any means, nor is the one person that we fall in love with. Sadly, that's not always the case, that's going to be the one and only person that we're going to be with. But my angels would come through in a more gentle way, and I would ask where I put things because I'm very OCD. I need to know where everything is at all times. And so I would ask, okay, so where did I put this? Because if there's something that's going to make life a little bit easier for you so that you can focus on the important stuff, we can ask our angels. And the more that we do that, the more they come through. Just little things like that. Getting a parking space. Or one of my, the things that I had learned that you can do is to, if you see an ambulance going by, let them know that, that person may need help. So if you need to go away for a little bit and help them, it's okay. I got this. I'm okay for now. But one of the things that they came through with, and one of the things that I learned for myself, is unconditional love. How to love myself unconditionally. I think that I struggle with that with other people because I'm a self-saboteur. So, as far as how other people see me, I do struggle with that. But I am able to bring to myself a sense of unconditional love. And this is irrelevant and independent of how anybody else sees or views me, because I was able to see myself in such a way that was through angelic view, unconditional and withstanding everything and those kinds of things. So when they speak to me, so to speak, it's not always spoken per se, but it comes through in the most gentle way of, you're going to be okay. Everything's fine. Even when it's not. Because if you're really in tune with that energy, you feel like, okay, everything's not fine, but they know exactly what kind of energy to give out and what to do to kind of calm and ease your aura. And, I'm a firm believer in being, angelic beings, because everybody has their own ideas of what they are. So I don't really know how to put that in a way that is going to encompass all beliefs. As I said, maybe it's coming from within. Maybe it's an entity outside of ourselves. All cultures, all religions have something similar to an angel. And so I believe that that's kind of what they are. Just, something that is inexplicable and good and, just beautiful in this pure and genuine way. For me, my spirit guides are different. They come in with a little bit more abrasion. There was a time several years back when I was wondering, why is my work not getting published? It wasn't bad. I don't want to brag here, but it was good. I had people reach out to me and say, your story is amazing, or and people that would try to get me published, and people that had connections, and they would send my story to places and all kinds of stuff, but when it came down to it, it just wasn't picking up. And I do understand, there are quotas, so depending when you reach out to an agency, it could be full. There's all these different things. Some people won't take a risk on a book, and of course, years ago I had written a message to Anne Rice about, any tips, and she said, just keep going, because she said her book was rejected a few times in a contest, I believe. And so she said, you just never know, just keep going, basically. And so I thought that was my one and only opportunity, and I was clinging to that because I didn't know how to do anything else. And I was way in the early stages of my spiritual growth. I wasn't even in spiritual growth at that point, really. I was still coming from a point of ego, even though I was trying to draw in angels and trying to communicate with them. So I'm still very much in ego because I needed to hear things in the way I needed to hear it. Well, one time I got a message of, you're not ready yet. And I'm thinking, yeah, I am. I'm ready. And I didn't realize what it was saying was, when it comes to putting myself out there, people are going to love you or hate you, one of the two, or, be indifferent. There's that. But was I prepared to deal with the negativity? No, I wasn't. And I didn't understand what they meant, that I wasn't ready. Not only that, but, in my writing experience, I can't even really call it a career, but I had come to this understanding that, you don't really own yourself, so to speak. And what I wanted to do was just kind of do my own thing and just kind of, be a writer, and that's it. And I didn't realize all of what that entailed. So they were right. I wasn't ready yet, but that message came through and it hurt. So they will tell you things sometimes that we have to take a step back and try to understand where they're coming from, because they have no negative intention toward us. Now when it comes, and people always ask me this too, how do I know it's angels? Because they haven't steered me wrong yet, and because there hasn't been any bad things coming from that. It's always been positive, and I don't see how something negative, a negative entity of any kind, would generate positive reactions, just as example, one of the things that I try to be very mindful of is, letting people know their worth, and letting them know that, if you're not happy, there are other options and opportunities out there, just waiting for you to decide what you want. And sometimes we have to go through that journey, just like I did, because if I had come through, and if I had been doing what I'm doing now at that time, I would have been more impulsive. It would have been about what you want in life and just going for it without really thinking things through. There's all of those things. So it takes a while to get to a point where we can say, okay, let's look at this in a way that is going to get you and everybody around you the best positive result. You can do a ritual in hopes that it's going to bring yourself inner peace and everybody around you inner peace, or you can do a ritual that is focused on one person and trying to make them feel what you felt, and that's not in a good way. that's, you know, first of all, it's giving somebody else power, you know, focusing on them. But, you know, we don't want to do anything like that, because it's not necessarily whether or not it comes back at us or not. I don't feel that that's the point. I feel that when we're doing something that's not in a good way or a good light, you know, we miss out on our own because we're so focused on what somebody else is doing. It's like copying a paper. If we copy somebody's paper, how do we know they have the right answers? Or how do we know what we are capable of? You know, all those questions come up. But anyway, back to topic. So, you know, I think that that's kind of what it comes down to, is having those journeys to be ready for whatever our life path has in store for us. And, you know, to know that we have the choice of following things through or making it happen, or, you know, that kind of thing. But as I said, you know, that hurt my feelings when I got that message. And I didn't understand it at the time because I was too immature. And then I started getting messages from spirit guides. This was when I was ready for it. And when I'm in a place of ego and I want something, and it's not something that's going to serve me, another reason that I know that this is not coming from anything negative or icky. When there's something like that, and a situation like that, I will get the messages of, do you really think that's a good idea? What are you doing? And it'll call me out. And sometimes it's like I'm not really thinking about it, but I may be tuning into my subconscious, or maybe I am hearing spirit guide voices. I really don't know, but it comes through so strong that I stop what I'm doing and kind of refocus. They're more abrasive. They let me know, like an angel will be like redirecting. Wouldn't you rather do this instead? Hey, how about we do this? It'll tell me something different. Spirit guides are like, no. You know, I'm going back to get another snack cake, which is a bad habit of mine. Angels will come off as more gentle. Be good to yourself. You know, you deserve better than that. You deserve to treat yourself well. You don't need that. And it comes off as this real gentle, caring energy, as if it's really truly coming from the heart. And spirit guides are more like, you just had one, put it back. And I argue with them. Not out loud, I'm not at that point yet, but you know, if I'm wanting something and it's a no from them, and they come through in that way, I'm kind of like, okay, no, but I want this. And, you know, so the angels will kind of stick around and follow you through whatever. Spirit guides, this is the way I experience it, by the way, because I know that everybody's going to have their own unique experience, but angels are going to be with you even when you're making the stupid mistake, or when you're doing the stupid thing. They're going to be around you. They're going to protect you. They're going to cushion you. Spirit guides, from my experience, they say, okay, fine, and they take a step back and they just watch you do it. And then, you know, when the thing that you already knew was going to happen happens, because even being somewhat intuitive on what's going to happen, actually, you know, I'm pretty intuitive on what's going to happen, and sometimes it's cause and effect, sometimes it's something that was totally unexpected, but in this case, you know, I tell myself, well, maybe this won't happen if I do this, this, and this, and this, so I try to avoid that outcome and get it anyway. But sometimes there are details within the cause and effect that happen that I'm like, okay, now I'm getting that sign, I'm seeing this is the time to walk away, but I don't want to yet, because maybe if I change this, you know, so it's like this rationalization. So that's when the spirit guides just kind of watch. They just let you do whatever, and they laugh when you, I don't think they really laugh, but I kind of suspect maybe they do. So there's that. Um, but I do think that, you know, coming through in the sense of the way that they come through is very no nonsense. So, like I said, you know, I can see what's going to happen. You know, a lot of times it's cause and effect, but there's those details within a situation. You know, a sign that looks familiar if you're driving somewhere, or um, getting an image of something, you know, that it's like, okay, or hearing a phrase that it's like, okay, that's something that happened in my vision. Uh, and it's those things that come through and give the confirmation and validation. And I think that in my journey now that I'm older and a little bit more mature, not by much, but a little, and I acknowledge those things, I do find it a little bit embarrassing that I would follow through knowing what was going to happen and thinking I could change it. You know, that's ego too. Well, I can change this situation, or I can, you know, change this person's view of me or whatever. You know, that's pure ego. And, you know, finally you get to a point where it's like, okay, no, we're good. Whatever somebody thinks of me, or, you know, any of those things, we kind of come to a point where that doesn't matter. So it's easier to move forward in some way. Where was I? Not to get hung up on the ego, you know. Something else with the spirit guides that I wanted to talk about. What was it? So I already mentioned how they can be a little bit more abrasive, but they will, you know, take that step back, and they're still there, but they can only tell us so much because we have free will. So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about, free will. As I said, I can see what's going to happen. Why would I follow through if I saw that the outcome was not ideal? Again, ego. But also, you know, we have free will. And, you know, sometimes those things are a test of what is to come, or, you know, what we're doing and all those things. So at some point, you know, going through the whole spiritual journey and just getting life experience as well, you kind of learn to take heed to those things. You learn, you know, again, cause and effect. When we're young, we don't have much of a concept of that either. That's another thing. But, you know, we know that if we have positive output, that it's going to generate more positivity. And, you know, I think that we've all had those situations where there'd be that one person who doesn't like us. And, you know, there's two ways of looking at that. Years ago, because, you know, being quiet and awkward and shy, and now I'm just loud and awkward. But, you know, years ago, it was like I would try so hard to just be positive, and whatever I did, I tried to be mindful of that, of how others viewed me, and to have my core of intention at the forefront of that. Because it's kind of a duality here. It's not that I care about how people view me, if it's true, if it's their accurate concept of me, and it's not necessarily how I'm viewed independent of that. But if I'm acting outside of myself in a way that I shouldn't, then that's the cue of kind of, you know, learning from that and changing that behavior. But for me personally, you know, when I was aware of these things and aware of how I wanted to be seen, and to try to keep that intention at the forefront, you know, there's still people that are not going to be our friends, and they're going to nitpick us, and, you know, so I would get the compliment that you seem like a nice person, you know, all the time. And, or, you know, you seem really sweet, or, you know, just things like that. And I found that if your intention is positive, even if those people that don't like us have a billion friends surrounding us, then it has come to this point of where people would defend me when they would say something about me, and I would hear it and I'd just walk away like, because it is a good feeling to know that even though this person has friends, that they weren't going to listen to it. And I was like, that just was a nice feeling. And then I also got to the point where people who didn't like anybody were my friend. And I think that when you get to that point, you feel kind of invincible. And so it's very much about making sure that, we're conveying our intentions. I think that comes through with the angels. And once, in the beginning, like I said, I was very in tune with, or I was very in my ego. I wasn't in tune with anything at that point. So that was a misspeak. I was in my ego. And being that way, I had a lot of impulse and immaturities and things like that. But tuning in with the angels helped me to kind of take a step back and say, okay, what is it that you want for yourself? What is it that you want for others around you? And, realizing I wasn't the center of the universe either. So making sure that my best interest was not just mine, but others around me as well. And so this is another discernment of, are you in higher self or are you in ego? Because ego is going to say, in essence, what's best for me? And I want to make sure that I'm getting ahead in some way. And it can lead to doing things in a negative way. It doesn't always lead to success because, we see some personality types where they will trample on anybody to get to wherever they're going. And then we see some people who try to get ahead, but they don't really get ahead because they're coming from ego. And, sometimes we get caught up on trying to make an image for ourselves rather than the action put forth. And then, where was that? So we have the ego and then the higher self. And the higher self says, okay, so what is best for me in a way that's going to benefit everyone? Trying to do things in a positive way, or giving people hope in some way. Somebody doesn't have to be our friend for us to want the best for them. Even our enemies, we can want the best for our enemies, because really, if they're happy and if something goes well for them, who knows? It could change their entire life. And, I do wish that for everybody, but, I do get an ego when it comes to that. I do get upset and angry, and I have to take a step back and say, well, what happened to make them so angry, or to make this their, just as an example, me at the forefront of their anger. I have a couple people like that where just everything I do angers them, just whatever reason. And I just don't really know. I have come to a point where I don't know, and it's not my job to figure it out. So when we get to that point, we're able to come from a place of higher self. It's not always easy to do. I make it sound like it's easy. The things that I get more mad about myself is not necessarily what's said about me or thought of me, but rather something that actually affects me. So, if a bully is bullying me and nobody's listening, that does cause me the frustration and, all of that. But it's because it's an actual event that is making things more difficult for me, or if I'm not being listened to, because sometimes, in general, it's easier to quell the needs of a bully than to address their behaviors. And, we see that all the time, whether we realize it or not. It's easier, even for ourselves, even if we're, their target, easier for us to kind of coddle them in some way. So that's kind of the difference here. Higher self lets us put things into perspective. Ego is like, well, I'm going to say this to them, and I'm going to let them know how I feel. But where is that really getting us? If we really look at it, what's going to happen if we come at them with anger, or even if we tell them how we feel? Is the person really going to... I had a call. I need to learn to put that on the do not disturb, because it's always spam. But anyways, what is it that we can do to make things better for everybody? And the hope is that, maybe they'll win the lottery and we'll never have to see them again, because they'll have the money to live the life they want, hopefully. I think that giving our enemies something like that, but then, that does entail a bunch of other things. What if the universe knows that they're going to get that money and still not be happy, and then just use that money to, fund their, fund their bullying or something? I don't know, but, so, there's a lot of things to soak in. I think that that's one reason why I myself have not won the lottery, because I know myself very well. And I also know that in certain situations and circumstances, it's possible I could become a totally different person. Whereas if I worked for my money, that's a totally different thing. So, a little bit different there, but same concept, I guess. It just gives a different idea than all of a sudden having this money right in front of us. Just like I said earlier, I could, or when I was trying so hard to make a name for myself in the writing world, it just wasn't happening. And the message I got was, you're not ready. And I think the same is true with, making money. Sometimes we're not ready for that, and ready for what that entails, because, people will say, well, when you have it, you don't, it's not that you don't have problems, but it could help some of those problems. It could, really make things easier in a lot of ways. Well, yeah, it could. But it also comes with a lot of other questions and things. Like, if we're lonely and we think that success is going to bring us friendship, it's like, well, what if we find ourselves lonelier than before? Because people are going to want to be our friends based on what we have, and that's not true friendship. Weight is another one for me. One of the things that always hung me up on weight loss is I have friends. I know who my friends are. I know who doesn't like me because of my weight and for nothing else, or who has said things about that. And what happens if I lose weight and then have to entertain those fake friendships? And that was always something that really bothered me, to wonder about that. So anyway, I know that this was like in all different avenues, but really I think that angels are very much higher self. I think that spirit guides are as well, but they're coming from a totally different place. They are more upfront and more bold from my experience. I don't think that all of them have been in human form, so they might even be a little bit more blunt about things because they don't have the social niceties. Spiritually, I think that those of us who have been in human form, we feel things on a deep level because we have had those experiences. We understand things on a deep level as well. But coming from, not having had that gauge, that point of reference, they may not quite understand that. And, the social, I'm getting messages now that that's a little offensive. But I think that that's where it comes from. And by the way, when I say messages, I mean like they're, I spirits coming from them. But angels are more coming from this place of divinity, whether you believe in heaven or God, of, you know, the traditional sense. I do believe in divinity, and so they come through with this divine kind of love. And, you know, when you tie all of those things together, you get a lot of this ego and a lot of this higher self, and all of these things just kind of culminating into one kind of topic. You know, it's a little bit of discernment, a lot of working with them as well, a lot of working with them, because it's, you know, not something that happens overnight. It's the best way that I can give a little bit of advice on how to go about this is take a step back and sit back with your coffee or tea or soda, whatever you like. And when you sit back with that, it's like we can tune in with our energy. We know what we feel like, and we know how it feels to have our hands on the cup. If it's, you know, too hot and we set it down, those are things that we notice. We are in the moment. We are engaged with everything around us and with our five senses. By tuning in with the five senses, we can tune in with that sixth sense and bring about that sense of awareness in a different way. So, you know, we got all this going on, and you know, play some music if you like, or use aromatherapy or whatever the case may be. But when we sit back, we know what we like, what we don't. We know if there's a scent that just doesn't hit us right and we just don't like it, or if maybe we've changed and we like it, and or if it's a certain thing that's added to it that changes it. You know, all these different aspects of self, and knowing what we want and what we don't, and being able to kind of utilize that in an awareness. So when we get to that point and we're really in tune with ourselves, this is where we can sense other energies. Somebody else walks in the room, okay, you sense it. You know, if you're really engaged in a movie and you're super focused, you may not, so that would be the perfect time to get scared when they, you know, walk in and we're not expecting it. But, you know, generally speaking, if we are in tune with our energy, we can tell when somebody walks in a room. We can tell when spiritual energy enters a room. We can tell when it's a good or a negative energy. And so this is how, in my own early stages, how I kind of learned to discern what energies there are. And this is also why I feel, for myself, I can feel the spirit guides and angels differently. You know, sometimes with other people, theirs may feel similar because theirs may be similar. I need somebody to slap my hand and tell me no. So, you know, there's that as well, you know. And I do think that in some cases, spirit guides do change. So, tuning in with ourselves helps us to know what spiritual energy it is. It can also help us to kind of know if there is, I'll just say it, a ghost. There's a ghost kid that lives in my house with, I think, a couple of older gentlemen, and they've been seen. And then I have a inhuman thing living in a closet. This is an ancient energy. It's really old. And I've had you know, friends corroborate a lot of this. The bed shakes in that room. It's I really don't know what it is, but I think it feeds on fear, but it's also very afraid. It's like, I was watching a video where they had captured this. They didn't capture it. They were trying to calm this cougar, and I don't know what they were doing with it. I don't know if they were trying to relocate it, but that's the energy that I felt watching this cougar on screen, because he was not going to attack them. He wasn't rushing toward them. He was backing off. His body posture said, "Leave me alone." And they kept trying to come toward him, but they were also, you know, aware of that. But if he had the chance, he wouldn't have attacked. He would have ran. You could tell that. So when I'm in that bed, in that room, whatever it is likes to mess with me, or anybody else in that room that's in tune with energy, it comes out and it messes with them. When you go into its space with an awareness that it's there, it feels like what I saw in that video with the cougar. It's like it's just trying to protect itself. And, I very much think that there are spiritually things out there. I am hesitant to label certain things. Angels, I have no problem with that, because I think that what they are or are not is completely up to us. We don't necessarily have to believe that they are a certain being from the Bible to really feel their energy and their love. I think that they're just as ancient as some of this other spiritual energy, but being on basically any place in the world, it's ancient land. So many things happened. So many things carry energy, and when there are impacts on certain areas, I think that sometimes those energies might linger in a spot, or they might come home with us and not know where to go, so they go to the first thing that they think of, which would be, a dark space, under the bed. I've, done some little, I don't know what you'd call them, not investigations quite, but something similar, where, you go out and you kind of feel the energy, and you have people corroborate what you're sensing. And then you cleanse where you feel whatever needs to be cleansed, or you try to communicate with, whatever's coming through. So I don't want to call that an investigation, but I'm going to call it a walkthrough. And, it's like they will go to the places where they feel comfortable, which is going to be, under a bed or in the closet. In my own house, and I notice houses like this, the way the hallway is, it creates a vacuum, a spiritual vacuum. So I think that any house that has a hallway where it leads to, one big space that kind of funnels into a smaller space, whether it's a bedroom to the living room, or living room to the bedroom, I don't think that really matters. It's the area. And I think that also because perhaps I like my trinkets and things like that, and some of that, probably does carry some energy, or holds in some energy. So I think that this is where it kind of all spills forth, and you can feel a pull. It's like there's certain things that you feel. Somebody had told me that when they're at my house, and I ask people that are in tune with that stuff, what do you feel? But he had said he thought, or he felt like whatever was in the closet reached out down the hallway and to him when he was watching TV in the living room or anything like that. So it's one of those things where I don't know, but I do know that one time I was in there and it kept messing with me, sleep paralysis, dreams. I was awake and it was still messing with me, and I said, okay, that's enough, I need to go where it can't get me. And sure enough, I slept on the couch and it was still badgering me. So, it's one of those things. But I think it does get kind of trapped there. And, I would always ask people, where do you feel whatever it is? I wouldn't tell them, but do you feel anything in my house at all? Where would it be if you feel it? And everybody pinpointed the same area. Everybody has had the same experience with that. The bed shaking, or, and I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of fascinated with it. And, I was a skeptic. My dad used to say this all the time, that there was something in there, and I would cleanse it for him, and things would be fine for a while, and then he'd say, I'm having bad dreams, they're weird, and, you know, it's something in there. So I would cleanse it, and again, things would be fine. Well, everybody in that room that sleeps there, since it's, you know, basically a guest room at this point, to some degree, you know, because, you know, but it's kind of like everybody that has slept there feels something if they're in tune, and they will say that they have weird dreams. So even if they're not in tune, it does affect people. The last time we really had an incident, I was, you know, asking a friend what was going on in there. What did he feel? And suddenly, well, not suddenly, but later that night, my aunt was visiting and she had fallen. It wasn't like she had fell. It was like she got knocked into something, but then something set her down. We have a lot of good entities in this house as well, and so I don't know, but I do know that that friend had said that something attached to that thing and followed him around for a bit. So, and it got really bad. So, you know, we've got to be really careful with this stuff. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut this, not short because we're past that point, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now. I will see y'all later, and I hope y'all have a fantastic day.